In August of last year, I uploaded a video titled, Monty was framed and I can prove it. It was a video simulating the emotional tailspin of experiencing Five Nights at Freddy's Ruin for the first time, realizing that my Blorbo Supreme was being character assassinated, both narratively and in the actual material, and wanting to conduct a very silly investigation a la Ace Attorney, where I attempted to convince my very, very small people at the time, mostly consisting of my friends and a brother who had still at that point not seen Ruin, that Montgomery Gator of Five Nights at Freddy's fame had been defamed and had not, in fact, murdered Bonnie the Bunny.
I believe that Monty was framed. Maybe not by the game, but certainly by something. Maybe everyone really was right. Maybe Monty really did do it.
Objection!
Is what I would say if we also didn't have this message about Monty himself found in Parts and Services. The first is Bonnie, incapable of going to the stage, with someone who wanted attention so badly that he was willing to attack one of his friends, be on the record for intentionally skipping those same performances he'd presumably killed for. I think very much not. After reviewing the evidence, it's clear to me that Montgomery Gator couldn't be Glamrock Bonnie's killer. I rest my case. Let's take a moment to examine these claws missing from his arm. Also, just look at him, he's adorable. If they wanted me to think he was a stone cold killer, then they should have made Monty far less of an Luppy. Doesn't bother showing up, luring or dragging him. Given the evidence though, I cannot in good conscience perpetuate this narrative. After everything we've seen now from these two games, I think that we've been looking at the wrong animatronic this whole time. And if I'm right, then this was a case of mistaken identity that we as the FNAF community haven't seen since the days of the mic trap theory. You can make a good case for Prototype Freddy. Time is the real horror of the Five Nights at Freddy's series.
It was a very silly video, had about 7 pages worth of script, and took only about a week and a half to produce. Pretty good for a, at the time, even more extreme amateur in video making than I even am now. I didn't even know how to keyframe animate at the time. Anything that moved on the screen was done by hand. And sure, I can look back on that video and go, I could have done better now, but it still serves as an interesting artifact of what my channel was at the time and what my mindset was like in the year 2023. Well, we have a problem here. See, I made this video for an audience of one person, and it was seen by what felt like the entirety of the Five Nights at Freddy's fandom. You can kind of see the problem here. I went to bed the night before I uploaded it thinking, wow, it would be really funny if this got like maybe 200,000 views. But that's never gonna happen. And I wake up, it's got around like 95, and even then I'm already impressed because at the time I had, what, maybe 100 subscribers, if even that. And then that view count started getting bigger and bigger, and I started getting stressed out and took a break to vacuum my room, and when I logged back into my phone, it had gotten into the 100,000 views range, and I started freaking out. Here were so many people just stumbling into something that I had, what felt like at the time, thrown together in my free time, basically. It was nerve-wracking, exciting watching those numbers go up, 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 up. My partner had spent the better part of a day poking fun at me and teasing me how she had totally called it because the night before she'd said something along the lines of, "You're so awesome and cool and you're gonna get a bajillion views from this." She says those sorts of things a lot. She's wonderful. It was thrilling to see hundreds, even 1,000 people reaching out and messaging me about their own theories, some of which were right on the money and others were wild and vast and untamable, almost like the FNAF fandom itself. And honestly, I really felt proud of the amount of reception and feedback I'd gotten on something so seemingly small to me. I couldn't believe that something I had made had been seen and had been touched and loved on by so many people, but as all things do, eventually the clouds burst. And here are all of these people telling me, "Whoa, you have such a small channel! I can't wait to see more. Maybe you should look into getting a better microphone. Next time, start mixing the audio a little better. You have some really great visuals, but, well, things are a little weird and static. I'm looking forward to seeing more." I even got some comments from channels that I had been subscribed to for years telling me that I had done a very great job handling myself, and it felt great. But this was the most attention I'd ever gotten in my life, and it was for a video game that I honestly really didn't care about all that much, from a series that I had been obsessed with back in middle school. It was definitely quite a change from the last video I had uploaded having maybe 100 views. I had no idea how to handle myself. All I could do was just thank as many people in the comments as I could, make a few jokes here and there, ignore the people that pointed out that I sounded like a 12-year-old, and try to see what I could do from there. I already knew the moment that this video had uploaded that I didn't want to spend my time focusing on solely Five Nights at Freddy's videos, because that sounds kind of like a nightmare, honestly. If I had to stick with one niche subject and run it into the ground, I think that I would kind of go crazy and make everybody in my life miserable. Even just the thought of having to throw together a follow-up video in 1 week was already stressing me out, so no, I was not going to dedicate this channel to Five Nights at Freddy's videos. But maybe I could find other things that I liked doing. I liked talking. I definitely liked talking about myself, and I very much liked talking about media that I cared about. But the thing that they don't tell you about YouTube's success or any kind of virality on the internet is that there are usually two different observable ones. There is the one that carries momentum for your entire channel, propping up your backlogs, propping up any of your other means of income, and this was definitely a concern for me at the time because I had not even gotten monetized when Monty Was Framed had come out, so the majority of the views that I was getting were never counted towards the payout that I got for that video, which meant that I lost out on potentially thousands of dollars, and that still sometimes keeps me up at night. And there are viral moments that are, unfortunately, a flash in the pan and will not only not do anything for you, but might actively hinder your efforts to try to build a following off of that. And in the coming weeks, I realized that that was exactly what had happened to me. It was a little heartbreaking, but I had to very quickly come to terms with the fact that, well, people just were interested in what I had to say, not me as a person. And if I wanted to change that for myself, I would have to figure out what I wanted to do with my channel. Because if hundreds of thousands of people would tune into something that I barely had an interest in, what would happen if I talked about something that only I could talk about? Something that only I could deliver to the internet. And I've spent the past year and a half figuring that out for myself. It certainly hasn't been easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. None of the videos that I've uploaded since then have had any sort of the amount of success that Monty is Framed had. However, that doesn't mean that they weren't worth uploading. As artists, as writers, the only way that you can hone your craft is, well, being really bad at it at first. I had no idea how to use my editing program until I sat down and really started gutting through it. I had no idea how good it felt to figure out the exact comedic timing that would make a joke work until I figured that out for myself. And I can tell you this, there is probably no other equivalent feeling to the high that you get when you finally finish producing an hour-long video all to yourself and cue it up for the first time on YouTube. The aforementioned documentary is coming out on December 15th, which is in a few days at the time of uploading this. Trust me, if you are an Undertale fan, a Deltarune fan, hell, most importantly, if you're a Homestuck fan, you do not want to miss this. I really liked making Monty Was Framed. Here was this very funny and silly character to me that had so little love comparatively in the fandom, despite having such a robust amount of characterization to work with compared to earlier entries in the series. He was almost instantly one of my favorite characters in Security Breach and Ruin, and that's probably for the most part because I really like to love a villain, or simply just a character that's kind of the worst. And I think it's really funny to not only sit down and defend that character, but to go down this mental rabbit hole of, okay, but how would the story change if they were innocent? If they hadn't done the thing that sparked their entire motivation to be an asshole? And for Monty, that's easy. Ruin had crafted this entire background story about how Monty not only adored Bonnie, but had looked up to him, had wanted to be him, had wanted to sing and play alongside him. And how devastating would it be for not only your hero to have disappeared suddenly one day, but for everyone to have thought that you played a hand in making that happen? What would that do to a person? I'm not saying that this was intended by Security Breach or Ruin's writers at all, and I can't even say if it would be a better story if it had been. Monty is so interesting to me because he has such a clear case of, we're inserting him into the plot so he can be the bad guy. And I don't know, that's just very charming to me that this big guy can run around and yell and scream at people and also maybe or maybe not have been a robot murderer. It's charming and it's interesting, and I wish that Security Breach had had more background story like it. I can't sit here and say that every single thing I'm going to make in the internet is going to be a banger or something that I dedicated months, if not years of my life to. God, I hope that I don't, because I'm already exhausted enough as it is. But I hope that my story serves not as a warning, but as encouragement. You have no idea what's going to happen when you upload a video. Maybe an hour-long documentary that you made specifically for the purpose of pointing out a years and even decade-long mystery hiding under the Deltarune and Undertale fandom's nose all this time. Maybe that video is going to be a dud. And maybe the video that you wrote in 3 hours and took all of a week to make, maybe that's the thing that's going to launch your channel into being monetized on YouTube. You will never know what's going to happen to you. And honestly, that's one of the most exciting things about being able to upload anything that you want on YouTube. The thing about putting irons into your fire is that with enough patience, with enough crafting of your skills, and yes, with a little luck, maybe you can make a masterpiece. If you have a project that you're just really burning, really itching to make, go ahead and do it. What's the worst that could happen? I'm not gonna sit here and lie to your face and sugarcoat it and say that the way that the engagement dropped off after the Monty video finally started petering out didn't kill my passion for making videos for a good bit. It was a little disappointing to have to sit there and acknowledge that that video had very much been a unicorn, but after a while, I went, fuck it. If something as silly as that was what got me to 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, what had skyrocketed me to 1,000 watch time hours, and had monetized my video all in one swoop, then what's to say that that couldn't happen again? Most YouTubers say this advice to anybody who's looking to start really taking their video production seriously, and I'm about to say the exact same thing. The worst thing that you can do is give up. There are so many people out there that might have missed their moment because they gave up before they could actually get any momentum behind their channel, and I think that that's really sad to see. Yes, it's going to be frustrating. There are going to be days that you really just don't want to sit in front of a microphone. But I'll tell you this, when you do finally figure it out, when you do hit that momentum, it's worth it. But the most important thing is not to do this for other people. You should be doing this because you enjoy it. Because if you don't, people can tell. They can tell, and it will not be pretty. So don't do this because you want to make it big. Don't do this because you want to make money. Don't do this because you want to get viral. Those things can and they will happen. But if the thought of making videos, if the thought of having to edit your own material, if the thought of having to sit in front of a program and listen to the same 20-second clip of your own voice for over 3 minutes straight, for hours and hours on end, is unappealing to you, don't do it. Find something else, because trust me, that is something that you're going to have to be dealing with for weeks, if not months, depending on how long it takes you to make a video. Other people's praise can and does feel really good, but if it's just you starting out for the first year, 2 years, however long it takes for you to find it, trust me, you are going to want to have to figure out how to depend on your own methods of approval first. You should wake up after a insanely long project that has taken you ages to ideate, and even longer to finally put out of your brain and onto your computer and go, man, I want to make something else. Maybe not that exact same thing, but something. I don't know if that advice was helpful, but that's the advice that I have to give. I wish you patience, I wish you consistency, and I wish you some very fun times making videos ahead of you. Have a nice day, and hey, you! Yeah, you with the face, back there, in the trench coat. Do you want some drawings of a little guy smooching another little guy? Well, I can help with that. Do you want a chibi drawing of your OC? I can help with that too. Boy, oh boy, do I have you covered. You can have all this for a price. And the price is money. Please commission me. Oh my god, I need to pay my internet bill.